Hi, my name is Peggy Oberthier. Welcome to the Medical Intuitive channel. Today, I'm very lucky to have Linda Johns. She is the founder of Journey to Healing, which is a bridge to awareness and truth. She is facilitated over 15,000 individual healing sessions for both people and animals over the past 30 years. She has an incredible amount of wisdom and experience, and I'm so excited to have her here today to tell us a little bit about her journey. Welcome to the show, Linda.
Thank you. Thank you for inviting me, and thank you for all your listeners to let me have a little space in their time of the day as well. Appreciate it.
Thank you. So this is a medical intuitive channel, but we've brought you on the show. You have a range of skill set here. You've got I would like to hear from you. How do you describe what you do?
That's a good question because we all continue to grow and morph into something new daily. And healer, communicator, medical intuitive, all of those can fit into the identity. But I don't try to label myself in any one container. I consider I'm just a being of service and just spirit guided healings.
Amazing. I love it. So tell us a little bit about your journey. 30 years is a very long time to be in this space. I mean, I've just started out, and a lot of people who have joined this, subscribe to this podcast have also just starting on their spiritual journey probably in the last 5 to 10, 20, 10 years. 30 years, how did it start for you?
Well, truly, it started in the mid 80s, late 80s. I was sitting in a church looking for a connection. And this I never had went to this church before, and they had a healing line. And when I was sitting there witnessing the experience, I heard this voice that said, "Go and lay your hands. You will heal with your hands." And I thought, I can't go. I don't even belong to this church. I don't even, no, there's no way. And of course, I didn't do it. And I just stayed where I was. And fast forward about 5 years plus, um, I was a buyer for a retail health food store at the time. And I was at a convention, and Barbara Brennan was one of the book signers, and her book, Hands of Light. So she signed the book for me, and I brought it home, and I was reading it and not reading it. And it was one of those that laid next to my bed for years. And one day I picked it up and I said, I need someone to teach me this, just because the information was different. My filters wasn't able to really comprehend it. So as soon as I put that out there, I looked at our little Natural Awakening magazine, and there was a person that was Barbara Brennan's apprentice opening a healing session or a healing workshop here in Tucson, Arizona. And I signed up, and the rest was, just one thing led to another and another. And I I found myself being led to a spiritual teacher, and she was an amazing gifted healer. And one of the things that she was able to do for me, and I love to do for people too, is to hold the space like a reflection, because sometimes we can see the potential, the truth, the essence of the being where we can't see it for ourselves. So she held that reflection long enough for me to step into it myself.
Wow.
And I like to do that now for people. But we went to Sedona one workshop with her, and she was an amazing channel. And so she channeled our guides. And so I asked my guides um, how I was doing on my spiritual path. And the guide said, piss poor. And I was surprised because from my ego mind, I was thinking I was learning all this stuff and I was doing all of these classes and all of this stuff. And he responded that because I was letting fear stop me, and I was on the surface studying and learning and growing, but I wasn't diving into the deeper part of self and letting that really be part of the emergence. And so And in that channel, he also shared with me that I was a bridge and that I was to bridge the worlds between animals and human. And that this is a soul contract, and I agreed to do it. And everything I have to need to be successful is already woven into these contracts. It's the same for all of us. Whatever our soul has agreed to do, it already knows how to be successful at it. We just have to sometimes allow that. And so the bridge then to the animal became part of my logo as Journey to Healing, a bridge to awareness and truth. So I was able to start accepting the learning and accepting the information that was coming through from the animals. With that journey, though, my mind, when I created Journey to Healing, my mind really wanted me to work with people. I just saw myself doing healing for people. And people would ask me about their animal, and I would share some information and get some guidance from the animal's energy field and share that. And then I would try to force myself back to the people. And then when I was with the people, I thought I really liked the working with those animals. And I found myself waffling back and forth for 2 years. And then one day I realized that when I work with the animal, I'm really working with the person, and there is no separation. And once I came to that realization, I found myself at PAWS Veterinarian Integrative Clinic 2 days a week doing animal communication, and 3 days a week in an immune recovery clinic working for alternative healing with their clients. So my spirit had a bigger understanding of its journey. I just had to get out of its way or surrender enough to allow it to come fully forward.
Wow, what an amazing journey. I love that message from your spirit guides.
No.
It's real because they actually have such a sense of humor. And, if you're not connected to that funny, they say really funny things, don't they?
Right. I was surprised because, I didn't think they used language like that. So I'm like, I was caught off guard a little bit. It's like, what?
Yeah. Oh,
But that's actually what I needed to kind of, put a little reality check into, ego thinks it's doing well, but it's really not.
yeah, no, that is amazing. So you've got quite a few offerings, but I love to hear a little bit more about the animal communication side of it and how is it that you tune in and and you teach this now to people, don't you? So
That's
how is
correct. Yeah.
yeah, so what do you see? I mean, I can understand, when I worked with parents and children in my previous role and doing a lot of parenting work, and the child's or the parent says, fix my child, and I think, oh no, I've got to actually work with you because they're dysregulated because of your issues. But is it similar with the pets and people? And how do how is it that you communicate some of the information to the people, and how does it work?
How I work is actually just building a bridge. There's many ways to connect with animals, and I do a conscious conversation. So I build a bridge I use my third eye to their third eye, and I project a question, receive the information. Every animal works differently. Some will send information in a thought, a word, a picture. Sometimes you can get the symbolic energies or the images that you have to kind of translate, um, but they will share with you. And then what I do is then just share that with the person. And then we ask another question. So it's an open dialogue back and forth, because a lot of times whatever the animal will share then leads us into a completely different arena, most of the time, than what, the checklist of the questions that the person may want to start off with. Um, I truly believe that our animals are here in our life as not only as teachers often, but because they're either in our life because we already know how to help them and support them, or they already know how to help us and support us. So one time riding in the desert on my horse was always my spiritual director, and I would give him the reins and I would tell him to take me wherever I needed a message or a lesson. And he would wander around, and wherever he stopped, I would get off, and he would just nibble or wait patiently while I did a meditation or a prayer or whatever healing work I was guided to do. And one day I picked up a stone, And as soon as I picked up that stone, it broke in perfect twos, and both were identical. And I heard that simultaneously, all through life, we are always teacher and student, always together. And so that's the way it is with animal communication. And the animals are in our life because they're either teaching or learning, and we also. And so it just makes a beautiful opportunity of growth if we allow the animal to be the wisdom teacher.
Amazing. So, what are some of the examples of the wisdom that these animals have helped people with their own healing or evolution as a soul? What are some of the,
Well,
yeah.
one of the veterinarians, Dr. Goldstein, wrote in his book that animals, especially dogs, because they're so empathic and unconditional love, that's part of their soul journey here. Uh, he said a high percentage, 60+% of the conditions that a dog has is often that of the person. And
Wow.
the animal will take that on because we people have a tendency to always be looking outside of ourselves. So we're always looking for something. And when our animal starts to reflect the same symptoms, we then search for the solution for them. But in the meantime, we actually realize that that breathing or that acupuncture or that herb or that medicine or whatever pathway we choose is exactly what we need for ourselves. And so many times they're reflecting that, they're holding a space. I know personally in my own life, with a young horse I got, he pulled back and flipped over backwards and injured his back. And at the same time, my husband was going through back surgery. And
Mhm.
and so it's like they're reflecting each other's challenge and supporting each other in moving through the limitation of the back injury. And so situations like that happen a lot. Um, there's just so many identities that the animal holds for the people that it's actually endless. You can have the storytellers, you can have the healers, you can have the helpers, all of just whatever. Just like we people have identities and we get labeled into a job or what it is that we do, animals do as well.
Wow.
And so depending on what what they've either taken as an identity for themselves or have been designated, is more of their service work or what they're giving. Sometimes they will take on jobs that are self-designated. Those are usually the ones that people want to help change. Like the dog that barks too much is because they've taken on the role of being the protector, but they're really scared. So they bark, bark, bark to tell everybody, don't even think about coming in here. I'm here. So
That's so amazing. And what percentage of animals are uh, like healers or transmuting? Because I often get messages, oh, your pet's transmuting for you. And that's just that comes in my head, when I'm working with a client. Um,
right, right.
and so like, do you see them as powerful beings to help move energy in people that really need it?
Well, I believe that all animals, just like people, all come in with their own soul contracts
Okay.
and free will. So they're all working on, just like we individually are all working on something unique. Sometimes they merge where we find ourselves in a group collective mindset of a healer or whatever it may be. Sometimes the animal is working in a collective as well. A lot of the animals right now are taking, especially if you have the empaths that are taking on all the stress, anxious, worried of the world, they're actually working on the bigger collective field
Mm,
and healing and transmuting from that level. Now, if just like people, if we do a lot of healing work and we don't take time to recharge or balance or move the energy, we can actually end up with our own symptoms or burnout or stress. The same for our animals.
mm,
So if you do have an animal assisted therapist in any of these ways, you want to include them into your own spiritual practice. So if you meditate, invite them in to meditate with you. If you They can physically be there, or you just energetically bring their essence into it so that they're also receiving a higher energy and alignment to do their soul work too. It's called psychospirituality, where we bring our animal into our spiritual practices
Wow.
and help them evolve on that level in addition.
God, I have a million questions, but I know that you offer a course about this. So tell us a little bit about your animal communication course and offering.
Well, what I'm doing now is a 6 week, it's considered a basic beginning, but it's actually the foundation. And one of the things I like to start with is to look at what skill you're already using in everyday life. And whether you're claircognizant or clairaudio or clairvisual or an empathic, clairsentient, you find out which skills you're already tuned into. Your animal, and when you start to practice the animal communication, is likely going to come through those pathways you already developed.
Mhm.
And then once you have recognized that and you can recognize the information coming to and from, then the other ones start to come online too. And so we start to develop. When I first started, I was audible. I heard the information. It's just kind of like pops into the middle of your mind. And it's that one of the things with animals is that when you get information from them, it's actually very, for me, it's very soft, very subtle. It's not attached to anything. Like if we think a thought, you can tell what that feels like when it's running through your mind or your ego or your criticism, your critical voice. So training yourself to sense energy is where I start with the class, and helping everyone to realize that each week, it's a 6 week class, but we start with sensing, direct and indirect communication. We learn active listening, focus, discernment, discerning what is yours, what is the animal. And then we work with wildlife and communicating with the whales and the dolphins.
Mhm.
And it's 6 weeks. And one of the things that I have found is that it's amazing fun because we do all the exercises together and give people permission to realize that we can all gather the information slightly different through our own filter systems, and yet it's all a piece of the puzzle that makes it a perfect picture. And that's what we have to recognize, is that we can all do this. I believe it's a birthright. It's not an elite gift or a skill.
Mm.
And that when we give ourselves permission to recognize that which is coming to us, then it just starts to blossom.
Amazing. So what are
I
some
also
block? Oh, go ahead. Yeah.
I was going to say, I also found that once these skills are developed, just like probably what you have witnessed with your own work, is it just kind of keeps evolving, is that the animal communication skills doesn't have to just be limited to animals. Everything has consciousness. So I've been called into a lot of times with autistic children,
Mm.
um, being the voice for them, dementia, Alzheimer's patients, to bridge the world, because everything's a bridge. And
Mm.
you can bridge to where they are and make that connection and understand their experience from their place versus trying to bring them to our reality, which isn't going to actually happen.
Mm.
But you go there and bridge. Or in coma, I've been invited into being a communication for people in comas or end of life, any conversation communications that need to be. So this is actually just a bridge. It's endless. It's bridging the language of all life.
Wow.
And
So it's so fascinating. I know at the start of my journey of my claircognizance, it's this, you get all these doubts and you go, is that real? Or so what do you see as some of the blocks that people experience when trying to develop these gifts or
Mhm.
these skills that everybody should have?
Right, sure. The two biggest ones that I find is the self-doubt and the fear.
Yeah.
And the self-doubt is just because our conditioned mind likes sameness, because tribally, historically, we've had to be the same in order to be safe and fit. So anytime you start to step outside of that box, then the conscious mind is going to say, hey, I don't think so. I don't think this is good. I don't think we should be doing this. So
Mm.
it sets up its own obstacle so that you get afraid and step back, and then you stay in sameness. And so that is part of it. The second part is the fear.
Mm.
And in the communication class, we look at that, and the Conversations of God says we have two choices in life. One is to choose fear, and one is to choose love. When we
Mm.
choose love, we choose power, and we choose being growth, and we choose at being at the effect of the creation of. If we choose fear, then we choose victim
Mm.
and being at the cause and the effect of the situation. The interesting thing with that, though, is our energy fields, we're all working on amplifying our energy field. When we choose fear, we actually pull our energy field in, and it disconnects us. The spirit, the divine matrix, is all around us. And so when we are in centered ourself, and we have our energy body expanded, we're connected to the infinite. We're connected to that morphogenic web, that universal torus that everything exists in. When we get afraid, we pull ourselves out of that. Then the conscious mind thinks it has to do it by itself. And
Mm.
then it starts figuring its way through it. And the conscious mind only is time bound. It knows the past, how we used to do it, or it knows the future, which is the fear of what ifs. And
Mm.
then so it strategizes from the what if point of being.
Yeah.
And
I love
so
that explanation. That is just probably the best explanation I've ever heard, Linda, about. I love the, the way that you say you're choosing fear, because it's you've actually made that choice to step into that. So heart-centered living is one of your key teachings, isn't it? So, and you've alluded to that just in that answer. You do teach this explicitly, separately from the animal communication of how to actually live in that heart-centered way, or is it all just woven in all your different courses?
It's slightly all woven in, because when we live in the heart and we expand from the heart, we're connected to all that is.
Mm.
So I always do find ways of trying to bring us back into the heart. In the animal communication class, we each week we do some sort of little exercise that gets us into the expanded space, so that by the time of the 6 weeks is over, you decide which one you like to work the most with. The living in the sacred heart came through guidance. I was in a retreat, just in my own journey to the mountains for R&R. I kind of being an empath. I often need to go back to nature to recharge. And when I was in nature that particular time, my guidance was sharing with me how to receive healing, how to stay connected, because previously they were sharing with me that we have one, they were using wattages like a light bulb. Our daily experience is between 1 and 200 watts. And depending on what experience we're choosing, if we choose shame or self-doubt or anger, we're in the lower spectrums of that wattage. When we do the higher, happiness or contentment or serenity, then we're at like 200 watts. And they were sharing with me that when we think of something, the unconditional love, when you
Mm.
think of something that you just love unconditionally, whether that be an animal or a person or an experience, you automatically raise your vibration to 500 watts.
Mm.
Because when you drop into that remembrance of unconditional love, you're embodying it, and
Mm.
you amplify your field. Then they shared with me to do joy, to think of something that brought joy. So that could have been like a graduation, a wedding, a birth, a celebration. And when you think about that, you raise your wattage to 750.
Wow.
And then they said gratitude. And gratitude, when we think about something that we're grateful for, whether it be, a reason, like as in having a house or food or whatever, or just the remembrance of the feeling of gratitude. When we drop into that and just really just merge and hold that gratitude just within us, we amplify to 950 watts. That's why gratitude teaching is so important now, is like if you wake up and do your gratitude list, or you just think about a few things that you're grateful for, you automatically are starting your day at 950 watts.
Yeah.
Beautiful.
Yeah.
And then they shared with me to remember a time where you felt connected, like a prayer answered, or the angels, or this, the synchronistic thing happened. That is 1,000 watts, and that's called connection. And so then they were sharing with me that how we can always amplify that 1,000 watts is by dropping into our heart, into the sacred center of the heart. And in that center, there is a field where your guides and angels and teachers and the hand of God, and by any name you know it by, lives in the heart. And when you amplify that field, then you're totally surrounded by divine. You're always connected because you're in the center of it. And
Mm.
so you're at 1,000 watts, animating light to heal the world, just by being willing to drop into your own sacred space and receive. Because it's about receiving. You
Mm.
receive from your guides, you receive wisdom, guidance, healing. Our only job, I think, is to receive. Because when we receive, then we just share. Um, so
That is
anyway,
so beautiful. I actually got a little bit teary when you were speaking about the gratitude. Yeah, I just had this overwhelming sense of gratitude of just speaking with you and sharing with you today, because you've got so much incredible wisdom for our listeners, and I know that people are going to be listening to this a few times. So
yeah,
amazing. I've
yeah.
actually, my mind's gone blank because I just feel a bit overwhelmed. I have to get the next channeled message to a question to come in. So perhaps
Well,
go ahead. You can tell
I
us.
was going to say, with that, then, with the teaching, I do now teach monthly, and we're starting in April, once a month, a series that runs for 6 months. Once a month, I think it's on a Thursday. I can't remember if it's the third or fourth Thursday, but it is either healing technique, clearing. It's about how to live in the heart in the ever-changing world. And so guidance always channels something through, and we just, create this hour and a half. It's usually about an hour and a half together of just this mystical, magical time together in the sacred heart. And so that's starting this month. And I do have that offered on my website, and it's on a sliding scale. So I think it starts at $11 a month. There's a $29 a month, and there's a $45 a month. So giving an option of so that we're not limiting anybody because of a financial experience. So that's certainly available.
That's incredible. And is it all done online?
Yeah, Zoom. And all of them are recorded so that if time zones or day schedules don't work, then that's available. And of course, it's yours to keep. So there's no,
That's incredible.
they can download it and keep it if they wish.
It's amazing because I think I often speak when I'm working one-on-one with clients that, they want the support to help clear whatever the blockages are. But
Mhm.
one of the main blockages that I see is that they're not living in their heart space and they're not
Yeah,
connecting to themselves. And to be able to go, okay, Linda Johns, she's your person to help
yeah.
you
And, and,
develop your
and
space.
yeah. And you, I mean, you do tremendous work too. You do amazing work.
Oh,
So,
thank you,
but
Linda.
that is the key, because the guide said the heart is the way forward.
Mm,
There's no way we can continue to do life and create something different by living outside of ourself. And the mind is outside of the self,
mm,
because it's always strategizing. It has the to-do list. It's always figuring something out. And when we're in that, we're in just a very limited perspective, because the Heart Math Institute says that the heart has an electromagnetic field that expands out 8 to 15 feet,
mm.
and the mind has an electromagnetic field that expands out 12 inches.
Yeah.
And when we're
No
in the
comparison.
heart, Yeah, no comparison. When we're in the heart and we're just in that infinite, that energy field,
Mm,
we are connected to everything that is. This
mm,
is where all the intuition takes place. Intuition takes place in the heart.
mhm,
And the heart is actually what perceives the information, sends it to the brain, then the brain kind of decides what it's going to do with it. But the heart receives everything first.
mm,
So learning how to bridge back into the body, because the Trinity has always been we've been taught it's been mind, body, spirit, but it's really body, spirit, mind.
mm,
And so when we drop into the body and we're in that infinite field,
mm,
then we are connected to our intuition, our higher self,
mm,
the wisdom, the divine, and then the energy field around us is where spirit, where everything exists. The
mm.
unlimited possibilities of the quantum field exist all around us.
It's
And
incredible.
so we just drop in that, and then this is also where if we do want to communicate and channel and do different things such as that, the more that we can be bodied in ourself, the more we're going to be able to receive. If we're working from our head, the mind is going to scare you away from yourself.
Yes,
So that's the first step is learning how to get into your body.
that's amazing. So what do you see the role of because I see a lot of people when I tune into them, they have, I get messages of they've got grief stuck from there when they were 4, or they have an anger, like, repressed, there's anger stuck in their shoulder or a lot of
Mhm,
times the heart, I get an image and it's covered. It's got saran wrap around it. It's got cotton wool. Sometimes it's got like a steel clamp and there
yeah.
ain't going there. And so I wonder, other ways of teaching people besides, working
Mhm,
with a healer or whatever, what other ways can they help release those traumatic, sometimes they're subconsciously stored there, um,
yes.
to help reconnect with their heart space? Because it's like they've got this massive covering.
Right. One of the things that I encourage there is to um, do like a backdoor approach. And so don't even go to the heart first.
Yeah.
I always walk people through a visualization of imagining a golden ball of light above their head and watching that golden ball of light come down through the crown, behind the eyes, the throat, the heart, the abdominal area, and then that golden ball of light settles at the base of the spine, the
Mm,
tailbone, the coccyx area. That golden ball of light will always exist there from this point, so you don't have to do that each time. But every time the mind is starting to scare us away from ourself, we would invite the mind to step out of the busyness of the mind, to step out of the head and just follow it down, follow that golden light pathway down to the base of the spine. And
mm,
then the mind is observing in that golden ball of light in your body.
mm.
And then you encourage to push out the energy field in all directions simultaneously, fill the room or as far as you want to go, because then you're just reconnected to spirit and you breathe in what you would like to feel instead. So you breathe in safety or you breathe in calmness. Um,
Mm,
and as the mind is witnessing this from the golden ball of light, it's watching the body bring in its attention. It says, I know how to do this. We could do this and this to create that. So then the mind starts working with the body and spirit in
mm.
its co-creation instead of trying to direct and dictate away from itself.
Yeah.
So and then if the ball of light is too abstract, you drop them all the way down to their feet.
Mm.
You take their awareness all the way down to their feet. How do their feet feel? Is it hot? Is it cold? Are they tired? Are they achy? How does it feel with the shoe or the sock or the ground touching it? The
Yeah.
more they can come into a somatic experience of
Mm.
their feet, their mind is in their feet. So they bridge the body.
That's
They're
perfect.
there.
I love
They
it.
don't even have to go to the heart. Once they bridge the body, then they are still connected to their intuition and their higher self and their instincts.
Mm.
Life changes.
That's a beautiful grounding activity. And it's quite interesting that you say that because I often start clients with trying to visualize bringing light in, well, connecting their feet to the core of the earth, the crystalline center,
Yes.
and then having a visualizing this light coming into their crown and
Uh-huh.
connecting them in this sort of loving embrace. So that's,
Yeah, absolutely. That's
yeah.
good.
Well, we're
Yeah.
doing that. When you said that's pretty cool. I love that because that explanation is so interesting because it's, very similar to the, that you are not your thought, you are the observer of your thought. And I love the way that you put it in, you go in the body and you're
Yeah.
that. It's just
Mm.
observation of that.
Yes,
A
absolutely.
powerful tool, Linda. I could talk to you for hours. Is there
Yeah.
something else you want to share about some of your offerings? Because you've already spoken about two really powerful courses that you have. You mostly do online courses and you've got a few in-person retreats as well and offerings and workshops
Right.
for
Thank
the
you. Thank
lucky
you.
people in Arizona.
Yeah, yes, that's true. The in-person ones are limited to those that can travel to Arizona. But the beauty of Zoom is we can be everywhere now and be sharing in many, many ways. The other thing that I have coming up in April is a class for energy healing for pets.
Oh,
And it's a 4-week class, and that one's on Mondays. And so we work at different ways of uh, using the body, using the breath, using the intention, the awareness, the energy focusing, the directing it with intention or color or frequencies, or even going out to the quantum field and creating from a completely different way of sending healing and sharing. That's coming up in April. That one starts April 7th.
oh,
And
fantastic. Oh,
yeah,
I'm sure
again,
that
that
is
one's all
very
recorded
popular. Yeah.
as well. And let's see here. One of the things with the animal communication class is that um, it's a starting point, and then there's lots of topics of interest. So, like animal behaviors, or healing, or spirit communication, or hospice care. All kinds of things come out from it. But the foundation is the one that really helps with giving you a true sense that you can do this. And of course, practice makes perfect. And so as we continue to practice and use the abilities, they just become stronger and stronger. So
Wow.
that's the encouraging part, is to continue to practice and work with it. I do a lot of medical intuitive work now, which when I first started with animal communication, like I said, I was audible. One of the things in the class I share with how to find your skills, but once the audible came in and I was comfortable with it, then I started getting pictures. I didn't get pictures at first, and so it was more feeling and sound. And then pictures come in, and now I can scan. I just go through their body and scan the organ, or see the organ, or pull it up, or just different information like that comes through. Or if they have a challenge, we'll ask them. Of course, you communicate with them just like a doctor. When did it start? How much does it hurt? You kind of get information to know how and where or why or what happened when it started hurting.
Mhm.
So all of that's available through the communication of being able to gather that information. And then the medical intuitive part of it, of course, is that we can teach how to scan, how to either hand scan and pay attention to the sensing of the energy of different areas.
Mhm.
We teach how to merge it to be the animal and to experience it from within your own awareness.
Mm,
So there's many ways that the medical intuitive skill gets developed through the communication avenue also.
incredible. Now I have
Mhm.
another question. I just thought of it because in one of the Zoom calls that we did, one of the group sessions that we had with Patrice Christopher, who's my mentor, my friend's dog was going crazy and barking and barking and barking. And she told me, and she was reacting to some of the people on the screen who were possessed, they
Yes.
had a demon possession. So can animals also get entity attachments and, and such, or are they just sort of helping us sense what might be happening in their humans?
Hmm. Well, I think anything's possible.
Okay.
And so there would probably be individual experiences that they could. One time on a Navajo reservation north, the dogs that incarnate on reservations are learning some really tough lessons. But
Oh.
so this one animal came, he was injured, sick. I fed it, and when I pet it, I felt there was an entity
Mm.
attached to the dog, but the entity was attached to the dog because of the anger of the lack of care and the lack of
Mm.
compassion for the animal
Yeah.
that he was suffering. And so uh, energy draws to it. And
Yeah.
so even animals can have attachments that will feed on the particular energy that they're going through.
Yeah.
So that is possible. Most of the time, the dogs will certainly read energy fields. They're super at that. And they will read the one that is like a little cautious or not trustworthy or on medications or even recreational. A lot of times the dogs will react to that type of energy just because it's not the alignment with their true essence, and so it's altered. And
Wow.
so they can, and if you have a protector dog that has taken on that job, they will alert you to all that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
Um, so
Yeah.
yes, it's
Those
certainly
are the
possible.
barking, those are the barking dogs that are protecting the family.
Yes.
That's pretty incredible. Yeah. It's just so fascinating. I think we will obviously have all the links to your offerings and your amazing website and all that stuff. And I think people will be very excited to join your Zoom sessions. Is there something that that you'd like to share with the audience that we haven't spoken about to leave the audience?
What I'm just hearing is just to encourage everyone to just relax and to drop into the stillness within them, that the infinite wisdom lives within. And we have maybe been on too large of a quest. And now it's time to actually just be and to be in our alignment and in our centeredness and just to let it come to us instead of searching for something. And even that disconnect and all of those sensations that we have all walked through at one time or another, the connection is within,
Mm,
and everything that we need is within us now.
mm,
And when the more that we can come and back to home base and keep making friends with ourselves and expanding our energetic light body, the wisdom within grows stronger and stronger. And before you know it, it's animating a path forward that we've never ever saw before.
mm.
So give permission for that wisdom within to shine light on your new path.
Wow. I feel like that's a direct message for me, Linda. Oh, that's been so beautiful. I'll have to watch that a few times. Yeah.
I I always drop into the heart, the sacredness of the heart. In fact, I don't know if you can see on the wall,
Oh,
there's a sacred symbol,
it's
purple. Um, that was the image of the sacred heart that came through.
wow.
And because the light around it, the center is the Trinity, which is the
Mhm.
body, mind, spirit, and then or past, present, future, whatever, Mother, Father, God, whatever you want to refer that to. But then all of the light that shines around that reflection is our individual beings and divine helpers.
Wow.
And so when I walk into the inner circle, I call that the inner circle. When I step into that, I say the circle's open and now active. And those beings of light all amplify their energy bodies, and it becomes like a pillar of light that surrounds me. And often I will ask for guidance, and I'll ask, what's my next? what's my next step? What's my next? And I'll just be receiving the energy, and then somebody will make a phone call, or I'll get an email like you sent me, and presented this. It's like, oh, this is my next. And so I'm asking, and then when it presents itself, I just know that this is all orchestrated by divine as
Mm,
well.
that's a beautiful image. Do you have that for sale on your website or something, or because you've developed that, or?
I created that one because that was the image the guide showed of the Sacred Heart. I have the image. I used to have the little pictures that you could use as meditation boards. I haven't reordered those, but uh, the image I'll be glad to share with anybody that
Oh,
if they would like it, I can just send them the image of it.
oh,
So
well,
yeah,
I'd love to be your first recipient because it's just
I'll
stunning.
do that.
And
Yeah,
yeah, that practice that you mentioned is a beautiful reminder that we just have to connect to ourselves, and everything is divinely orchestrated, and we have to trust and surrender. So that's like a beautiful tool for surrender that
and
yeah.
yeah,
Of course, it's come at perfect time for me today, as always, it's all divinely orchestrated how we end up chatting. And
I know. I really enjoyed it. Thank you.
oh, Linda, I'm so excited. I'm going to go on your website. I'm very excited to look at your offerings and send out the links to everybody I know, because yeah, it's amazing.
Yeah.
And I can
Also,
feel my
one
whole
thing.
body's had goosebumps. So I'm speaking to you. Like, it's just been lovely. Yeah. My whole
Okay.
vibration has risen, and I feel quite yeah, quite peaceful, and it's been lovely to connect with you.
Nice. Thank you. Thank you.
All right.
I enjoyed it as well. And thank you for all your listeners to allow me into their sacred space as well.
Oh, the lucky listeners. Yes. Okay. Thanks again.
All right. Bye.